Testing. Testing, testing. When I press record on my phone, it zooms in on me automatically, so I had to stretch my arm, like, way out. I don't want to be going around holding my arm up like this. This is insane. I would like to be able to continue to go this close and not have my face take up the entire screen. This is good. Alright, I think I fixed it, maybe? I changed the camera settings to be 1:1, whatever that means, and now it's stopped zooming in on my face. But maybe I'm ruining something that I'm not quite aware of just yet. And while I'm a good distance now, it shaves off the sides of my view. I mean, you don't really need to see that, but it's cutting off some of the video. My camera has some different effects here. Oh my. Saturday night, it's like almost 10 o'clock, and I decided I was going to start watching some lesbian movies because I can't wait for this podcast to start. It's taking too long. But we're going to try to get our equipment together this weekend and see what happens as far as testing it all out. But I'm like, I gotta watch some new lesbian movies, see if they're even worth talking about. And I'm just over here having a lot of feelings about these movies, because I never get to see myself represented in movies. So when I actually do get to see it and there's like this emotional relationship happening, I'm like, I have a lot of feelings. So I'm having a lot of feelings right now. Oh my god. It's 1:30 in the morning Saturday, and I have pretty much spent my entire day researching lesbian movies for the podcast and trying to download the movies or like find the movies on my hard drives and CDs. And I found a lot of stuff. So I was researching lesbian movies of 2018 and 2017, and there's like a ton of movies that I would like to see. I do like that with this camera, it seems to keep the lighting the same. Like with my old camera, when I would press record, it would go like 10 shades darker for some reason, but this one seems to be the same. How's it going? It is Saturday. It's almost noon, and I have been for, let's see, almost 24 hours now. I have not had any cell phone service, so I cannot make calls or texts. Not that I ever do, but this also means that I don't have a data plan when I leave the house. So I'm off to T-Mobile to find out what's going on. The situation is that yesterday I went online and activated my new SIM card, which deactivates my old SIM card. So then I went online with like T-Mobile chat support for an hour and a half today, and they basically didn't do anything that I know of. I was just like, this guy has to be such a noob. I mean, the only thing he was having me do was restart my device over and over again. Like, he was doing things on his end, but I just feel like he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm at the gas station. Let me get some gas here. It's starting to rain like crazy. Alright, I just got some gas. So, in the end, he was like, alright, so would it be possible for us to like set the phone back to factory settings? And then I got really irritated because I spent 3 days putting stuff on this phone and like making sure that I like it and making sure that all those things work. And like, yes, I can reset the phone, but I don't want to reset the phone because I don't think it has anything to do with that. So I told him that. I was just like, that's what I told him. I was like, I don't think it's going to help. I will do it, but I don't think it's going to help. So could you just tell me what the next steps are? Because if the next step would be for him to just tell me to go to the store, then I just reset my phone for no reason, and I could have just gone to the store to begin with, which is what I'm doing now. So instead of resetting my phone, I'm just going to go to the store and they can like test things out themselves and see if I really need to have a reset. But at the store, they'll be able to test my phone with like other working SIM cards and test the SIM card in other phones, make sure it's working. And then we can talk about resetting the phone. So here I am back on my old phone recording, because if I have to reset the phone, I'm gonna lose my new content. So here we are. I'm driving out in the wild right now with no internet and no cell service and just a camera to talk to. This is like 129 days where the dude is like stuck in the boulder. He goes hiking alone and he falls down into like these cracks, or he gets stuck in these cracks and his hand gets trapped by a boulder and he can't move. And all he has is like a day's worth of food and like a little bit of water. And so all he has is a camera. So like he's just down there like starving to death and dehydrating, and he's just talking to himself on the camera until the battery dies, and then he decides to just cut his arm off. And this is based on a true story, and that was the only way he got out, was by cutting his own arm off. That's me right now. I'm talking into my camera because I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't have cell service. I don't have the internet. So that's me right now, is that I don't usually go out to this area, but of course I can get to the area. But am I going to get to T-Mobile without having to turn around multiple times because I took a wrong turn? I don't know. And I hate this area because it's like out by the airport, and there's like 500 different like windy roads that go all over the place and like don't lead to anywhere that seem to make sense to me. So yes, I took a screenshot of the map, and I did the old school, like back in the early 2000s, I would go to mapquest.com and like print out the map and the directions. So I do have the directions printed out, but I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make it. This has ruined my day because I woke up and I was like, all right, I'm feeling all right today. And I just remembered that breakfast burritos exist. And I don't know why I haven't been getting a breakfast burrito, because all of the things in a breakfast burrito I can eat. Except like with GERD, you might not want to eat eggs, but like, I don't know, I feel like I should be okay with eggs. And now my cramps are starting to flare up, and I'm getting super annoyed, and I just want this to be fixed, and I just have this feeling that I'm going to walk away and they're going to be like, oh, you know, we're going to have to give you a new phone. And so I'll just be like, ugh. Then they'll be like, well, we got to ship it to you and it'll be there in like 5 days. And then I have to go back to this phone. So I'm heading up to the area now where it's getting a little bit confusing, where I'm not quite sure where I'm supposed to turn. And it's raining out, and I didn't bring a coat because it's been 100 degrees outside. And now I wish that I had, because I'm going to get completely soaked, and not in a fun way. Alright, you know what I did with my Google Maps search? I actually searched for Target, and I didn't search for T-Mobile. So this is what I mean. So I've been driving around. I don't know where T-Mobile is, because it's like a huge loop, and it's one way, and there's like a million stores here. So I drove around and around, and I finally found it, and now I'm parked outside of T-Mobile after trying to find a parking spot. And I'm going to go in, and it's totally rainy out. I'm going to come back crying because they're going to be like, oh, you can't use your new phone, and we're going to send you a new one in like a week. This is a test recording in the car with my new phone. I just got out of T-Mobile. Gotta fix my sideburns. So I just got out of T-Mobile, and my SIM card was trash. For whatever reason, they sent me a bad SIM card. They put my current SIM card into a working phone, and it didn't work. And then they put a working SIM card into my phone, and they were like, oh, it works. Your SIM card is bad. So they just gave me a brand new one, and now my phone works. Like, what are the odds? It's like all I wanted to do was to not have to go to the store, so I bought all of this online. And then they send me a card, and it doesn't work. But yeah, I think I'm going to go get a breakfast burrito, and I'm going to get a decaf coffee. It's going to be a Frappuccino style type drink that I always get. The caramelizer. Alright, here we go. I decided to not get decaf coffee because I'm having cramps, and it's probably not the best idea in the world to put like a bunch of sugar into my body. You could essentially say it's like a liquid candy bar. And I'm just gonna skip it for right now. I'm gonna get the breakfast burrito though. But I do have to say that there's this thing that I've been thinking about, like, you know how there are people who are like, oh, I stopped eating such and such and then I just felt so much better? Like, that's never happened to me in any way. So I've always eaten whatever I wanted and I've never felt any worse or any better for like eating or not eating certain things. Just take like now, for example, I've been on this low-fat diet for like almost 6 weeks now, and just eating a lot of like fruit and vegetables, and I don't normally eat a lot of fruit and vegetables, but it's not making me feel like Popeye or something. Like, I feel just the same as before I did this, except like aside from like the throat problems that I'm having, I'm not running around with more energy or something. So I don't really know what that's all about. I've been not smoking. I haven't smoked for 3 weeks. I don't feel different at all. Last night I scoured the internet for more lesbian movies and I found some. Okay, so I was finally able to get my hands on Go Fish, Claire of the Moon, and Watermelon Woman. But let me tell you, what I did find is there is this woman on a gay website whose goal was to write an article about every single lesbian movie that was ever created, which, sidebar, is a really sad thing to even be able to do. Like, the fact that one person can write an article about every lesbian movie that exists is very sad, and that's a very clear example of how there is hardly any representation of queer female romantic relationships in movies, when one person can spend a couple years and write an article on every single one of them. Back to the story, her articles are so hilarious that I was dying last night. I could not go to bed because she writes them in like this sarcastic, witty way because she understands. She's with us. She's like, lesbian movies are bad, and why are they so bad? She's essentially doing the podcast, but in the written form. And then what's even better, the cherry on top, is that all of these people are commenting on her article, and they agree. Because I've never had anybody to talk to these things, to talk about with these things. It's just kind of like, I went through this solo journey in the 90s to like see every lesbian movie that I could find. And then I was just horrified at how horrible they all were. But I didn't really have anybody to talk to about them. And so it's really like exciting and refreshing to see all these comments from like all these other lesbians or queer women who were just like, yeah, that movie is horrible. Welcome to Sunday. And I am heading off to go get a decaf caramel blondie chiller. This is going to be my first time having a coffee drink since being diagnosed with GERD. I've been feeling a lot better since I stopped taking the medication, so I don't know what that means. There's still something wrong with me, and I still need to go to the doctor and get it figured out, but it's less of a burden on my life now. But what I really came on here to talk about is that my mind is going to explode if we don't get to start this lesbian podcast soon. I'm not trying to pressure anybody, because there's a lot of stuff to do, and it's going to take some time, and I understand that, but my brain is like exploding with wanting to start this thing. So all that I can do in the meantime is keep on making all of these lists about all of the things that we need to do. And last night I was watching a lesbian movie, because sidebar, I've been going back and forth like, should I watch the lesbian movies before we decide if we're going to do them or not? Like, I'm talking about the ones I've never seen before. Should I watch them just to see if they're even worth trying to cover? And then last night everything clicked for me, and I was like, oh my god, what we need is the lesbian version of the Bechdel test. Alright, I just got my decaf. Oh my god, it's so good! So, basically what that means is I took all of the lesbian tropes that I could think of, the lesbian movie tropes, and I put them together in a list that was inspired by the Bechdel test list. Do any queer women in this movie die? If you say yes, you get a mark. You're failing there. Another one, does the movie have a love triangle that involves a man? Yes, then you fail that part of the test. Does the movie accurately portray lesbian sex? Who is making these movies and what kind of sex are you having? Because we've been like, okay, we're gonna write a song. Like, first it was like, we're gonna do a theme song. But then it was like, last time I was like, well, what we should actually do is write the lesbian Bechdel test song. And like write a real song, and like all of the lyrics will be based on these lesbian tropes. And so we could do it from like a comedic angle, or like, the one thing that I want to do is like, I want to talk about the fact that I just can't manage to get through any significant period of time without dropping a baby out of my womb, because, you know, all lesbians must have babies all the time, and I'm just dropping babies left and right because I'm so lesbian that I just can't stop having babies. Like, think of when we did the cat song and how we were talking about being lesbians allergic to cats. But this time it's going to be lesbians that are fed up with tropes in lesbian movies. And let's just make a joke out of it all. Welcome to 100-degree weather on a Tuesday after work. I have just grocery shopped. Today I woke up and I had like a weird sensation in my throat that felt like there was food stuck in it. And I kept like trying to get it out and it wouldn't get there, and then I realized that it's actually hurting. So I took a flashlight and looked down my throat, and I have this huge sore to the side of my uvula, and it's in the same exact spot, pretty much the same exact spot as where I was saying I was feeling the sharp pains for 2 days last week. So it's pretty concerning looking to me. So I emailed the doctor, and she didn't seem concerned with it. She was just like, well, you know, sores like that can happen because of stress or because of spicy foods, and she listed off all of these foods that I'm not eating because I've been on the most plain diet for almost 6 weeks now. And then she also said it could be viral and could go away within 4 to 10 days. And that I should just gargle some salt water and call it a day. And I'm like, okay, if you're not concerned with it, I guess I'll just keep an eye on it, and like, as long as it doesn't get worse, then maybe it'll go away. But I feel concerned about it because there's just all kinds of junk going on in my throat, and I don't know, like, it just feels like it has to be related. My last caller of the day was like being in a therapy session for an hour and a half, but it was very emotional for me because I was like, you know, it's just frustrating to be talking to somebody for an hour and a half who was like, seems very emotional about the problem, but like they aren't giving you the details. So I just feel like I was at a therapy session where I was like, I can't help you if you don't tell me what's wrong. And then she starts to like gradually open up and tell me what's wrong. Time to go stuff my face. Today I wake up and the weather report is just smoke. So that's today because of all the wildfires. It looked a little smoky when I was driving home from work yesterday. I just want to do the podcast. That's all. So in the meantime, I am continuing my journey on watching all the lesbian movies I've never watched. And I'm just horrified. You guys! I'm driving and the sun is completely blood red. I can stare directly at the sun and it's just completely red. That's because of the smoke, right? I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before, really. Completely solid red. You can stare directly into the sun. Why, hello. Wednesday after work, I'm heading into 90-degree weather in Portland. It's just never ending. I'm done with the 90-degree weather. I don't want it anymore. I'm over it. Today I have been researching more lesbian movies, thinking about lesbian movies, also just getting like fun facts and trivia and, learning the history of certain movies. And I feel like I really need to go home and watch Bound, at least the first 30 minutes. With queer women in movies, we just keep getting stuck with the same tropes and the same stereotypes and the same story, like over and over and over again. And we have so few movies to choose from that it's just completely exhausting. It's like, stop doing this. Stop doing this to us. It's like, it's killing us. I continue to make more and more Google Doc lists because since we can't do the podcast yet, it's like all that I can do is make 500,000 Google Doc lists about all of the things that need to be done once we can actually get started. And then like breaking those lists down into like smaller lists and smaller groups to like make everything more digestible for the group. Nobody's reading my Google documents, but that's fine. Like, all of the information that you could ever want on how to make a podcast is right there in all of my Google Docs, but nobody is paying attention to them. And that's fine, because I can just say all of this in voice, and some people work better in voice. And for me, I work better having 100,000 lists. So like, it feels like my brain has gotten the thoughts out on the paper, on the page. I'm organizing my brain on a page. And that's what works for me. It is not simply record a file and just put it on a website. It could be, if you're really looking for like the lowest quality possible, and like no production value at all, and like nothing interesting, to just like talk into a mic and put it on a website. Sure, that works for some people. But for me, I've been listening to podcasts since 2006, when I got my first iPod, okay? And podcasting was not what it is now back then. Through all of these years of listening to podcasts, I know exactly what kind of production value I want in my show. My show, listen to me. In a show that I'm involved with, I've always just had an idea that I would be doing this alone, so I don't want to do it alone. It's too much work to do alone. I just want a lot of different things going on in the show. Like, there are some people who just, it's like two people in a room talking, and that's all that it ever is, and that's fine. But that's not what I want. I want some of that, but I want more than that. And so that's where you would insert my Google Doc on all of the things, the structure of the outline of what I want in a podcast. It's taking a very long time to get started, as I accidentally kick my car into neutral. I'm like, it's driving a little bit weird right now. It is now time to get into bed with some lesbian movies. First up, Bound, and then I'm going to finish Allure. I just want to say that I'm very glad that it's no longer super bright out at like 4:30 in the morning, or even 5 o'clock in the morning. Today is Friday, and I just realized I got my new pop socket in the mail. Single taken horror movies. Today, or this week, is Burger Week. It's been Burger Week in Portland, and I didn't realize. And so I'm gonna possibly go check out a burger after work. It's cold out. It's 50 degrees. I'm cold. This is the first time that I've been cold in months. As far as the podcast, I'm doing a lot of research I'm starting to do a lot of research on our first movie. because like we're still at a point where we can't do anything. Like we still need to do recording tests and make sure all of our equipment is good before we can do any of that. And hopefully we can do that this weekend, but we shall see.